All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball. Yeah, I guess in a way, the start of our preseason analysis for the 2024 season. I see you've seen the title. We're gonna get it going with I see the head coaches that coming in from last year. We got a lot of storylines, a lot of things to get into. There's some coaches that there's already a lot of pressure going in. So we're gonna build our way up. I believe we're gonna talk about nine coaches. So just build it up little by little. You know how likely they are. You know what needs to happen if they can be canned, or if you know what they need to do to save their job. So Christian, you want to get us started?
Yeah, so we're gonna start with the first three coaches that are unlikely to, but there's a possible chance for them to be on the hot seat. Probably get the most obvious one out the way is Sean Payton of the Denver Broncos. He came into this, he retired technically when he was finished coaching the Saints, and then out of nowhere he came back to coach for the Broncos with Russell Wilson at QB. So, for that upcoming season, where everyone was already having the Broncos and, very high in the playoff picture, this and that. And we saw that the collapse that the Broncos had that season. Russell Wilson was living up to the expectations as it was in Seattle. That defense was, it was pretty much the focal point of that team that year, which was keeping them in place. But I think that offense, we know that was the storyline with the Denver Broncos. That offense was extremely horrible behind Russell Wilson for that from 2 years ago. And when we're looking at them now, they got rid of Wilson and they basically the whole debacle with all that, basically not being able to help improve the team what they could. And they got Bo Nix in the first round, which he has been looking pretty well in preseason so far. I know a lot of people have been kind of getting the hopes up. I know you had your little thing on him where you're starting to kind of like him a bit there. I know our homie still doesn't like him there, but not really unlikely for him to be on that hot seat yet, especially with the way the Broncos are kind of structured now. But once
Well, I
again, after
think the
the
way
whole
you could
Russell
look at it with
situation,
him is like, I mean, sure, we see the offense was really stagnant last season. We see
yeah,
all that, but I think it's more of the reputation hit that he took because of how he had handled the Russell Wilson situation, which, in all fairness, like, once he came in, we actually saw a lot of good things. He kind of set Russ in his place. We knew Russ was kind of like, in a way, kind of high and mighty. He was like above,
yeah.
well, he was used to being above people, whether that was in the Seahawks organization or his first year in Denver. And honestly thought really good things about Sean Payton. But then after, little by little, the way, I mean, he carried himself and the way, once the turmoil started setting in, this is what we would talk about a lot, I think, with the season recap or throughout the offseason, getting players to go to Denver. We see the culture that's there. And I think, Sean Payton's a big reason why the culture and players probably might not want to be too into going into Denver, and that's why I think honestly another sub 500 year might be all it takes. So you could say he's in a way a little higher than what we're calling him, but I think we're probably not seeing him too high up there as maybe someone like Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills. We see. I mean, he's one of the longest tenured coaches. I believe he's going into like what year 8 or something like that.
I think it
So
was something like that.
I believe it's his 8th year going into the season. I mean, he's had success. Obviously ushered in the new dominance of the AFC East for the Buffalo Bills. Obviously now we see losing Stephon Diggs. With that wide receiver room. It's looking a little iffy. We see what's he gonna do with, I guess, a new regime, new look offense, and we're thinking if I mean we've seen just this Bills team. They're perennial playoff team, but they don't get over the hump, and people are going to start to think, I don't really think it's Josh Allen. Especially we see the year he had last season, MVP caliber, probably should have won MVP if we're being honest. People are going to have to start looking at Sean McDermott. Maybe he's the issue. Maybe he's just not cutting it no more.
Yeah, and he was talking about last season, which really the only issue with Josh Allen last season, it was just his turnover issues, right?
Yeah.
But since he's came into the league, he's always had issues with turnovers. But with the quarterback that Josh Allen is, he still manages to help his
MVP
team
level
find ways to
despite
win.
it.
Exactly, he still finds a way. Look, the Bills were at one point they were what I think it was like 5-5, 5-6 last season before the Cowboys game. And I know you mentioned it. If they didn't beat,
6,
if they won the Cowboys game, they're making playoffs. And you were right about that. You see that big turnover that Josh Allen had. But now looking into this, he has no help at all whatsoever. Sean McDermott, so many adjustments he's gonna have to make for this upcoming season with absolutely no help that Josh Allen has. Every year, the Bills, it's another team. They're up there for the playoff contention here, but come to playoff time when it really needs to matter the most, he's another prime example where Sean McDermott, play calling's iffy. Same goes with Josh Allen, but like I said, you can't put the blame mostly on Josh Allen, especially with the type of caliber player he is, arguably top 10 quarterback in the league. With Sean McDermott, there's a lot of questions still to answer here, especially with the final coach, John, which is Doug Peterson. We saw his tenure with how he was in Philadelphia. He had that one great run in the Super Bowl year, but after that, that's really about it. Him coming to Jacksonville, you guys were 8-2, and one of the big story of last season in the NFL was that huge collapse of the Colts after Week 10. It was just, I don't know what was going on with Doug Peterson there, the play calling and the players and everything around that whole team, but that was a huge collapse, and that was kind of opening more eyes up, Doug Peterson being the coach there after 1 year. But honestly, there's still some time to look, especially now that after the big contract extension that Trevor did receive in the offseason. So you got Trevor for another couple more years, probably Doug Peterson for a couple more years. But when we're looking at the trajectory of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you guys lost your guys' receiver one, Calvin Ridley, so that's gonna have to make Christian Kirk step up the mantle for the receiver one spot. And then when we're looking at the defense, it's another young, bright defense with the young guy Josh Allen that's leading the team there. But after that collapse, I still want to see. I still, have some doubts still for the Jaguars, especially with that AFC South starting to be a little bit more competitive now.
I think in a lot of stuff that we could say, we will get into our specific AFC South video that will be down the line. But I mean, I think it's all premeditated. I don't think we're actually seeing Doug Peterson as the issue just yet. I think, he's a fan favorite. People love him. I think just the main thing is, that 22 playoff run is really carrying him right now in this time of Jacksonville. I mean, sure, right now that big collapse, people starting to open their eyes, and I think, like you said, the AFC South is getting very good right now. It is, people really thought, the Jaguars were going to run division. Then CJ Stroud and Ant Rich just came out of nowhere, and it seemed like they're going to be the top dogs in the division now. So it's very much a make or break year for the Jaguars. If they don't even make the playoffs, I really do think they're going to be starting to look in the mirror, and it might be it for Doug Peterson. So that'll do it for that segment. Now we're gonna move into, I guess, some coaches that maybe it's a little more likely, if we're being honest, for them to get canned. So I mean, no, number one, I think this is someone that we probably expect to be gone last year, Dennis Allen. I mean, he's had his trajectory, I think, ever back since, and he was a coach of the Raiders for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I mean, he's got the history with New Orleans and Oakland or Vegas, regardless of the two. And I mean, look, from the start, obviously he was ushered in after that Sean Payton era, and I never understood the hire to begin with. I know it was kind of just an in-house hire. They wanted to keep someone from the system, but I mean, he's never panned out. I really think after year one, he probably should have been fired. And okay, and after year two, again, should have been gone. Not happening. I really don't know what's the situation in New Orleans. I don't know if they're kind of just, taking another off year. I mean, I'm expecting them to be pretty poor this season, as we'll get into a little later. But I mean, regardless, I just don't understand how he's still here. And I think he's gonna be one of the high mid-season fire candidates.
Yeah, without a doubt, if the Saints end up going sub 500 this season, or pretty much mid-regular 8 or 9, still mid.
I'm surprised they even win 6 games.
Yeah, looking at the trajectory with that, I would assume either Dennis. I'd be really surprised if Dennis Allen does his job after the end of this season, or he's going to be in the hot seat for the upcoming season.
I mean, this is one of those guys that you really think
you would expect him to just be fired.
He made some. It's something that you used to say a lot. Some guys are just better as coordinators, and Dennis Allen really. Yeah. I mean, he was always so much better as a coordinator. He succeeded as a defensive coordinator for the Saints, but as the main man, he really hasn't done nothing.
Yeah, the Saints. The whole South in general, excluding the Bucks, you can kind of say that it's pretty much mid as of right now. As of right now, yes, there's a lot of that could be another thing there, but again, another sub 500 year for this Saints team. I could honestly see Dennis Allen probably walking out the door. Same with this next section, Brian Daboll of the New York Giants. He came into the New York Giants and won Coach of the Year his first year coaching there with the Giants, making their way to that playoff team. and they beat the Vikings there. I still don't know how the hell that even
Well, let's
happened,
also
but
remember, that Vikings team
Yeah.
was,
that was Vikings was
one score
mediocre as
game
hell.
merchants.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
very, very much of a fluky team themselves.
Mhm.
And also, like we could say, that playoff run for the Giants was
Mhm.
very much
It was a
fluky. And, you give
was a
Daniel
fluky.
Jones that massive contract.
Yeah.
And I think making the playoffs in general was just a curse in disguise for the Giants franchise.
Yeah, after that playoff win and even that run that people had with that team that year, you kind of expected that something bad was going to go on with that Giants team. Something was going to get overrated in the mix, and you gave Daniel Jones that $40 million contract coming into next season. That whole Giants team is just in complete shambles here, and Daniel Jones, they're gonna stick with him at QB. That's gonna put even Big Dable spot even bigger risk here. Look, I know you have weapons. Look, you have your second year Jalen Hyatt at the receiver position. You have rookie Malik Neighbors, who that could be a possible 1-2 punch. But you also lost Saquon Barkley in the offseason. It was pretty much your entire offense. It was under Saquon Barkley, and then you acquired Byron Burns. He's gonna get paired up with Kayvon Thibodeau in the D line. So it's a nice another young Gibbs that has a lot of potential here. But it's the way Dable's going to structure this team, especially with all the pressure that's going to them now, and with all the Giants jams. We saw, their call with Saquon. We already know the Giants in general are in shambles here. But from very likely, I could really expect Brian Dable. I could expect him to be fired next season if the Giants end up doing absolutely exactly 0-0 this upcoming season.
I feel like it's definitely going to be honestly, it's probably going to be a lot of the same from last year, and even probably a little worse. So, I think a lot of the finger point is going to go to Dable, which I don't think it should. I honestly think he's a great coach, but I think the quarterback play is going to be a big issue. The O-line play that obviously doesn't help Daniel Jones, which that's all a topic for that preseason preview. But regardless, I think Brian Dable is going to get a lot of unnecessary flack coming to him, and he's probably going to be out of the job after the season or even mid-season. And we're going to close this out red hot. The coaches that are on a red hot seat going into this season, whether that's for last year or just in general for how they've been going. So, Christian, I'm going to let you start because obviously your head coach is going in on a very hot seat this season.
Yeah, so this is probably the elephant in the room, Mike McCarthy. Look, we got him after quarantine. We've had 3 straight seasons of going 12-5, and to capitalize out of all of that, 1 playoff win from those 3 seasons. Mike McCarthy, look,
Against
I've
the
said,
Mickey Mouse Bucks.
Exactly. Look, yeah, but yeah, sure. But there's a lot of questions going on with Mike McCarthy, the whole team in general. Jerry Jones, we already know Jerry Jones. Say what you want about Jerry Jones, but he is sometimes, kind of part of the problem with the whole Cowboys franchise in general that's been going on for the past 30,000 decades of what's happened the last time he won the Super Bowl. Mike McCarthy, we see a lot of problems with him. His clock management, his play calling in very crucial situations. We saw that in the first matchup of the Philadelphia game last season. Literally the first 3 quarters, what was going on with the play calling and everything. Dak was literally putting that team on his back towards the 4th quarter, and then they Cowboys their way to another loss when the win was right there. And then we see against 500 teams, Mike McCarthy, he just can't step it up here. But look, I do want to cut McCarthy some slack because sometimes it's not all his fault. Just like most of these coaches we have talked about, it's not going to be their fault. They're going to get a lot. Coaches are always going to get the finger pointing most of the time when a team is struggling here. But with 3 straight seasons of going 12-5, and Cowboys has only 1 playoff win, and already coming with a lot of pressure coming into this season. I've mentioned it before with McCarthy with the Cowboys team, and I think this season is probably going to be his last with us. I don't care if we make playoffs too. I've said it before. If he doesn't at least make it to the conference championship, which is, I think that's the bare minimum for this Cowboys team. Sure, you get him a playoff win of the wild card. Whoopee, we lose divisional. Mike McCarthy, I without a doubt, I'm going to say that he's going to be parting ways with the Cowboys there if we end up being another first round exit, let alone if we do, and if we make the wild card and get a win there. But, his relationship with Dak Prescott has been one of the best I've seen with Dak so far because we know Jason Garrett. He wasn't clicking with him, and Mike McCarthy is the coach for him. But with the whole team in general, with everything that's going on, CD's holdout, and then the miscues in the defense what's going on right now, it's a lot of pressure going on with this Cowboys team. And Mike McCarthy, he is kind of the focal point of what's going to go on with this next season.
Yeah, so that definitely got really personal for you. I know I got a little more long-winded, but yeah, you put that perfectly. I think, maybe some of these issues aren't really to, of his blame, but regardless, a change has to be made, and that's the case with a lot of these. And now keeping it in your division, your heated rival, it's basically the same situation, Nick Sirianni, and it's a very, I guess it's a little weird to be looking at it this way, just coming off, a little over a year after making the Super Bowl, and now he's on a very hot seat, and there's a couple of reasons because of it. I mean, number one, I think the glaring obvious one, Bill Belichick being a free agent, we know there is some slight quiet rumblings that the Eagles would have interest, and obviously with that collapse last season, obviously just the way Nick Sirianni carries himself, I think a lot of people are really down on him lately, and I mean, I guess the honeymoon phase is over, to put it simply, and if the thing now, I think it's the same situation like McCarthy, no conference championship, specifically because they might very likely might have Bill Belichick lined up in the future. They might just be ready to part ways just because they have someone, they have the next guy ready up.
Yeah, and not even the coach side, like you said, the similar with Mike McCarthy. The only reason I would say Sirianni probably has the lighter ledge is he's at least made it to the Super Bowl, but it's just, that's literally the borderline right then and there. When we're looking at both these two teams, of the Cowboys and the Eagles, they have a very stacked team, but they just can't get it done. I'd say Sirianni has kind of the upper edge over Mike McCarthy, but like you said, you pretty much summed it up pretty well here. With how the Eagles are right now with next season, it's a pressure season for Nick Sirianni.
And then looking at how much they I know we're about to move on, but just because how much they retooled this team. Obviously, they had so many issues on secondary, they fixed them up. You had, I mean, you still had a great run game, and you still bolstered up with Saquon, which again, some things that probably should be for later, but it's to put it simply how crucial this year is for Nick Sirianni, and I'll let you move it on right now.
Yeah, like I said, close it off again. Probably more and more pressure with Nick Sirianni, even looking with Jalen Hurts with him at quarterback. It's kind of help right then and there. But closing out the video with the final head coach, moving back onto the other conference, is Robert Saleh. Salah. Sorry if I butchered it right then and there. But Robert Saleh is coming to his another year with the New York Jets here, and
I believe year 4.
Finally, is it year
4
or
5?
Year 3?
Year 4 or 5? No, it should be. I believe year 4.
Yeah, so he's pretty much there with the New York Jets here, and this season with the Jets, with the past couple seasons, they've been pretty overrated because of the defense, and the defense is the reason why the Jets have been, I guess, in games here. And it's another team just like the Broncos that were that one season. Their offense was the reason they weren't getting things done. Sirianni, he had Zach Wilson at QB, and the whole shenanigans that Zach Wilson was getting with this and that, and then Saleh already getting mad at him, which you gotta kind of let it on. He had Zach Wilson at QB for most of his, for half of his tenure there, and now you're getting back Aaron Rodgers. So we already talked about it before in the quarterback video with the players to prove with Aaron Rodgers. With the way this team is, you're getting Aaron Rodgers back, you're getting your MVP quarterback back for a full healthy season. God forbid anything else happens. Another young, great, arguably top 10 defense that the New York Jets have. A great secondary, and then bolstering up a run game for Aaron Rodgers, getting multiple running backs in the draft. And then with Breece Hall, who, say what you want about Breece Hall, you can't overrate him, but he is still top back in the league. Top 15, you could say here. With Saleh here, this is pretty much break for this Jets team to make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs at all for his tenure whatsoever. After every year, they've been getting so much hype. So I think with Saleh, this is another, for sure, Saleh, if they don't make playoffs this season at all, let alone the wild card, I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think you summed that up pretty well right there. I mean, I think it's playoff or bust for this team. And I know you mentioned the Zach Wilson. I know his play was a big concern, but I think another issue with Saleh is, the way he handled the Zach Wilson situation. I don't remember exactly, but there was a situation, throughout the middle of last season. He was kind of, I don't know, he was giving mixed signals to Zach, giving mixed reports, and I think then there was that whole leak to the media situation. It was just a bunch of turmoil regardless with the Jets, and I think the way that Saleh has handled that, I mean, I think he's a great players coach for the most part, but I think that the way he has handled the Zach Wilson situation is one pretty big dark spot on his tenure right now. And it's playoff or bust for Robert Saleh. And I think throughout the end of it, he might go down as just another one of those, probably did, work out more as a coordinator just because of his time. I mean, just like, we said, he had such a great run. That's obviously what hyped him up so much with that defensive coordinator role with the 49ers. We're yet to see that as a head coach, and that's probably, what we're still waiting on, see if he can actually give it to us. But that is going to wrap it up for us. Yeah, like we said, 9 head coaches that, already going into the season on I guess you could say on a short leash. So believe we're gonna have a good little lineup before we, I don't know, did we say for sure yet if we're gonna do the 10 videos, 10 days season preview? We'll get something. I think by, well, yeah, school's gonna start up pretty soon. We'll probably be able to jump back into the podcast room and finally boot up another, the return of Bean Talk, and maybe we'll get to talk about it a little bit there. Good, a nice. We're gonna be cooking up a nice new little way to give you guys our preseason preview. But obviously, keep a lookout for that. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back soon.